Hello, welcome back. This is Grillenheimer. I guess I'm going to put this under accidental thoughts of common sense because this is what it should be. We can't afford to be shallow. You want to make fun of Christians? You want to make fun of God-fearing people? You want to make fun of patriots, then people that love their country and love their neighbor? Fine. You're being shallow. That's very shallow for the sake of being vengeful because you think you're a victim. Being American is living here, understanding what that means. People that are leaving their own country to try to get here for our freedoms. Think about what they are having to go through, despite all the also terrors and horrors that go along with that, which you can hear from somewhere else, especially not on VTube. But we can't afford to be shallow. What is being shallow? Name calling. Politically, personally, whatever. Calling each other names. That's not bullying. It's name calling. Call it what it is. And teasing each other like you were still in junior high school or middle school, whatever they call it now. Labeling others. When you label somebody, I mean, there's one thing if you're telling a story and you're having to describe somebody, and it's like, well, this person is whatever, this person looked like, you know, whatever, because you're trying to form an image in someone's mind of something that happened. But when we label others in a way that makes them our enemy, I don't like them, so I'm going to put them in a box. I'm going to give them a label. They're the enemy. You're separating yourself from them. And you're being divisive. You're being divisible. You're making a fine, hard line between you and whoever the person with the label that you've put in a box. They're not a person. They're a this, whatever. And there's the flip side of that too, where you put yourself on such a high pedestal, you give yourself your own labels and force everybody to tell you, call me this, call me that, because I am king of this, or the queen of this. Oh, we can't define king or queen. Well, I'm a this. Call me this. I am this to you. I mean, really? Again, you're simply separating yourself and making everyone else belittled and littler than you to make yourself grander because you're the elephant in the room and everybody must see me. Okay. Learn to cook. Learning to cook is not being shallow. It's a good thing. My wife has definitely taught me and forced me how to cook. But at the same time, my son being in Scout, which he's completely forgotten about, almost, probably not, he's got a good memory, being self-sufficient, knowing how to cook outside, or cooking on your stove when the power goes out. And again, this goes to my number 4, learn how to deal when the power goes out. Do your windows open? Can you break a window? Would you want to? In an emergency, yeah, probably. And I'm a cold-natured person now. I didn't used to be. I always liked having the air on. Now I'm just the opposite because my bad circulation as I've gotten older and had type 2 diabetes now, and neuropathy and whatever. I tend to stay cold now, and now I've turned into my grandfather. My grandfather, he had his house hot. It was always 80 degrees, and we would come over. My grandmother would be like, and she'd call him by his first, I'll just say that, Bill, go turn that air down for we got company over, you know, when we would go over and see our grandparents, my grandparents, you know, because we'd go in and the house would be hot. But that's something that you might need to get used to. Why was he also had his house hot all the time? He grew up in the South with no air, and he was outside all the time, walking all the time, walking to work, walking to school. We make fun of that. We were told to make fun of that in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and etc. No, it happened. It was a necessity. They had one car, and the mother drove that car. Do some family history if you know your history. You know, if you have a biological family. My wife was adopted, so that's a different story there. She doesn't know her family, her blood relatives, and I don't know if they may not be alive anymore. I don't know. But learn how to cook. Learn how to deal when the power goes out. 5, learn to grow something. We tried growing something last year. It didn't happen. We were able to grow 2 whole tomatoes this year and maybe a handful of peppers. I got 1 more pepper growing. I mean, it's not much, and I'm the only one eating peppers. The family doesn't. I'm not really supposed to eat tomatoes as diabetic. My wife isn't supposed to eat tomatoes with her condition either. And Worm's gotten 1 tomato, but the other one was fine, and it tasted really good. Learn to grow something. My grandparents, now one side didn't farm and didn't really come from farming. They came from coal mining. My other side, they lived in a certain older part of, not really the city, but not really out in the country either, but they had bought up like a third of the block, so no one could live around them, and they grew. They had a garden. They had 3 pecan trees, and they had gardens. They had about 3 different gardens. They grew a lot of stuff. That's what they did. My grandfather worked in a steel mill. My grandmother, she ended up working some too, but together they were always in that garden. They had cabbages, they had pecans, they had tomatoes, they had they didn't have cucumbers, they had okra, and they pickled all sorts of stuff. Oh, maybe they did have cucumbers. They just and peas and green beans. Oh my gosh, they grew so much stuff. They had corn. You could walk through the corn stalks. I mean, it was not a farm. It was just their backyard. Was it legal for them to do that? I don't know. But they did. They did it. They grew a lot of their own food. Oh my gosh, they grew, and they would give it. We would go over there Thanksgiving. They give us extra food. She made pecan pies. She made pecan pie every holiday, right up until the end. Very good people. They may have been a little something, but they helped their neighborhood. They may have said one thing, but they did another with love. Okay? And they had friends. And their area changed, and they knew it. They may have said things behind people's backs, but they still loved them. And they would always give food away. Think of that. Actions do speak louder than words. And people now are trying to say that words are stronger than actions. That's backwards. Learn to maintain what you have. Learn to maintain your house. If you live in an apartment, you really can't maintain it. I've lived in an apartment once. I could do a few things, but before I left, I had to fix stuff. I had to fix the little holes that I had to be able to get my full deposit back, or most of my deposit back, and clean the carpet and all this other stuff. In a house, no one is here. There is no landlord. There's no Joneses. It's me. I own this. I'd like to sell it and go somewhere else bigger, but it's not going to be happening anytime soon. But I have helped try to maintain things around here. I've had to learn to do things, like I showed with the dishwasher and sinks and the tubs and the toilets. You've got to learn this stuff. You've got to learn to do things on your own and fix things. House, electrical. Once you get into the numbers of it, it takes a moment to really understand some of this, the properties that are going on. But for the most part, it's not that hard. Once you are doing things, you're like, oh, the white goes to the white, the black goes to the black. Okay, here's the ground. Let me connect the ground. A lot of this stuff is fairly simple. Once you get into the numbers part is where it tends to get complicated. But you can do some of your own electrical depending on where you live. And I've done some of my own electrical, me and my dad. And my dad has helped me a lot. He is not a licensed electrician, neither am I. But we've able to get a lot of stuff done. My uncle is. My grandfather, my dad, and my uncle, hard workers, let me tell you. A lot better workers than harder workers, and more knowledge, and they've forgotten more stuff than I've ever known or learned. Because I was too busy getting in video games and Transformers and music and other stuff, and getting too busy to do all this that I needed to be learning from them, because I thought it was boring and I didn't want to do it. Now I'm a teenager and wanted to do other things. And my dad didn't get me involved. And I need to be doing the same thing. No matter whatever grimaces, back talk, and other crap I get from my kids. Because I do. Because they're spoiled. Maintaining your house, your electrical, painting, your yard, your car, your appliances, stitching, guns if you got them. You know, my dad, we've had some guns, and the worst thing you can do is just to make sure it's cleaned out. Make sure the inside is clean. You know, make sure nothing's loaded, and you got to clean it out. You got to keep things oiled. You got to keep things well done, or well oiled, for lack of a better term. I don't know those terminologies very well. So if you do have to pull the trigger, it works, and it works right with the least percent of resistance. Okay, you got to make sure things work. The car my daughter is driving, I've got some bulbs in there I've got to replace. And with these newer cars, it's harder and harder to change out your own stuff. It's harder and harder with these newer cars to do your own oil. They want you to go to them. The newest car we got, I'm sure I could do it myself, but for like 2 years or so many miles, I can get it free with them. After that, I'm going to learn to do it myself. Etc. And yeah, I said appliances. Just because that appliance doesn't work anymore, it doesn't dry anymore, it doesn't turn anymore, we didn't used to throw it out. My dad and I, we would fix it. You know, I don't know how many times we fixed a heating element on our dryer, or something. I got to change out the water filter on the refrigerator. I think it's near the bottom. Just figure things out. There's so much stuff on YouTube that you can also find as well. On how to fix things. Alternator on a car. We've changed out the alternator on the car my daughter is driving about ridiculously 4 times since we've had that car. I don't know why the alternator goes out unless there's something else going on there. But right now it's fine for the most part. And then again, it all comes down to number 7: Boy Scout, Girl Scout, Trail Life. And they want to belittle these kind of groups. They really want to water down those kind of groups. They don't want you to learn how to do things on your own. Because if you get out and you want to have fun and you want to enjoy the day and take a walk through a park, through a forest, through a walking trail, which can be fun. You get lost, you know how to get unlost. And we see that a lot, especially if you listen to Mr. Ballin's stuff, his podcast, his YouTube, whatever. Bad things happen to good people that think they know what they're doing. On occasion they'll find an encampment, and so it's like, oh, well, okay, they were able to handle themselves for a while, and they stood in one place and waited for someone to come find them, and nobody ever found them, and they 3-5 months later. And learning to be self-sufficient. You want to know how to be American? You learn to be self-sufficient. You learn how to fix things. You stop playing the victim card. You start owning up to who you are, what you can do, what you can learn, how better you can do, getting to know your neighbors and helping them too. We're like a sweet little Oreo cookie right here. I got a black neighbor on this side, black neighbor on that side. They're both two completely kind of families with completely different needs. They're well-to-do. They're not. That's Section 8. I've said too much. We're okay. We're not. We ain't rich. But we've all helped each other out. We know who we are now. We've been here for a while. Get on your Facebook. Get a part of your community, your local community neighborhood in Facebook. Yeah, you're probably going to get the little old ladies complaining about whatever noise or this or that. Oh my gosh! But you're going to get some good things too about, well, we've been seeing this white car casing around the neighborhood at 10 in the morning after everybody's left. Things to watch out for. Things to listen for. We still have good neighbors. You might still have good neighbors. Get to know them. Get to know them through Facebook. So when you see them in real life, you can wave and go, oh my gosh, that's Jim. Oh my gosh, that's Tam. Oh my gosh, that's Mr. Kelly. Oh my goodness, that's, and you wave and you say hey, and you know who everybody is around you. And if they need help, you can go help them. Just like I tried helping a neighbor try to get their car out of the mud. We didn't get it that day because it was too muddy. They got it the next day when the mud was dry. But I tried to help them. We all really tried to get that car out of that hole. It didn't happen that day, but they got it. I think they used the plank that I had left there. They may have used another car to bump it or pull it out or something. I was working. I don't or gone the next day, but they did get that car moved. They'll grill out, and they'll offer us barbecue. I've offered water and given water to them when their power has gone out. And I'm like, oh my gosh, their power's out. Let me go get them some water. I bet they need something. It's really hot today. Color has got nothing to do with it. It's all about treating your neighbors like yourself, treating your neighbors as if you want to be treated. And that's biblical. Being American doesn't matter what color you are. It's learning to be resilient, learning to be self-sufficient, learning how to fix things. Yeah, stuff nowadays is not made to last forever. I'm going to leave you with this. The next time you cry victim and label somebody because you hate them, check your personality at the top of the hour and say, what did I just do and why? Because you might be the one that might be admitting that you're the one being the way you're calling someone out to be when you're the one doing it. I'm saying that in not exactly the right way I need to, but think about that. Because all we're all at fault there. But actions do speak louder than words. So many things are going through my head right now of my experiences, but let me guess, I'm not you and you ain't me. Well, tell me something else, Mr. Obvious or Mrs. Obvious. You need to learn from other people's experiences. That's what we all do on YouTube. Whether you're trying to change out a carburetor, a belt on a lawnmower, waste tube on a dishwasher, or learning how to stitch, or learning how to have a green thumb. Most of that's pretty much all here on YouTube, including a lot of spiritual help as well. Don't forget your neighbor. Before you can love your neighbor, you have to love yourself first. If you don't believe in God and love God, you need to at least love yourself. Look in the mirror and say, wow, that's me. Who can I help today? Because that's service. That's real love. And that is biblical in what he taught us to do. With that, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. I got to get back to work. We'll catch you next time. Don't have just a great day. Have a blessed day. It's a beautiful day out today. And we'll see you next time. Peace be with you.